Madam Chairman, thank you for the hearing today, and to our witnesses, thank you. I've had an opportunity to read your stories in your testimony that you've provided to the committee, and I've heard many stories from Alaskans, most notably in this past couple weeks, from women who are really very distraught about the Supreme Court ruling in the Dobbs case. But the stories that you have shared, from a personal decision to terminate a pregnancy, to the challenges that parents or family members face in accessing care, to the stories that women who visited clinics such as Stanton and decided to continue a pregnancy. I think they all demonstrate how these are very deeply personal, deeply complicated, and of course incredibly challenging decisions that far too many women face each year, and clearly that Americans hold deep and conflicting convictions over. When it comes to decisions that are so personal, that are so complex, and have such an impact on a person's lives, I think that that choice must ultimately be in the hands of the individual and not in the government. And that's where I came down on vaccine mandates. It's where I come down on abortion. But I think that, like so many other areas, there are nuances, there are gray areas. Many Americans, myself included, believe that it is reasonable to not require those who are firmly opposed to abortion to support it with their tax dollars, and that providers who do not wish to be involved in abortion should not be forced to be. But what I would hope that we can agree on is that it's in the best interest of everyone to create a system where fewer women face this choice in the first place, because everybody has adequate access to and knowledge about contraceptives, and because women and families have the support that they need. But ultimately, I believe in limited government, individual liberty. I support a woman's right to make her own health care decisions, and that means reproductive health care. I'm working with a small bipartisan group to ensure that the rights that women have relied on for the last 50 years, as established in Roe and in Casey and in Griswold, that these are protected. And I hope that at a minimum our legislation will demonstrate that there is a majority in the United States Senate that supports these basic rights. And I know that folks are all like, well, how are we going to get this legislation passed? And so kind of the knee-jerk response here is to take on the filibuster. And I want to just raise this because I think that it's tempting to call for the removal of the filibuster so that we can do something. But I would ask my colleagues to take the longer view and think about what elimination of the filibuster would mean for both sides and for our country in the future. In the recent years, the filibuster has been used multiple times to block attempts to restrict access to reproductive health care. 3 times, in 2015, 2018, and then again in 2020, pro-choice senators used the filibuster to block a 20-week abortion ban. It was used to stop a blanket ban on funding for Planned Parenthood in 2015. There were numerous other times to prevent the erosion of reproductive rights. I think we've got to look at this again down the road. The balance of power in Congress moves back and forth. Without the filibuster, do we really believe that a different majority would not seek a nationwide ban on abortion and find a way to succeed in enacting it? The filibuster is really one of the few mechanisms that protects the rights of the minority. So I raise this because I think we need to be looking long-term at this. Now, this hearing is about reproductive care in a post-Roe world, and I want to ask you, Dr. Taylor, what does this mean? What are the downstream impacts that we should expect on access to care outside of abortions, even in states where the Dobbs decision will not have an effect? In Alaska, our courts have held that our state constitution protects access to abortion. But at the end of May, Planned Parenthood clinic in Soldotna closed its doors. They do not provide abortions. The Dobbs decision, again, is not going to impact our state, but what we heard was a Planned Parenthood spokesman said that the closure was a result of a review by Planned Parenthood that led to the closure of 5 clinics nationwide. They're basically looking to reduce their budget to prepare for changes in states with trigger laws. We don't have one of those. Now, the closest Planned Parenthood location to Soldotna is in Anchorage, as is 3 hours away. The closest source of Title X comprehensive reproductive care is Homer, 2 hours away. So we're seeing changes like this in a state like Alaska that is supposedly not going to be impacted because of our constitutional provision. But you've got trigger laws in states like Kentucky and Idaho that are driving a reduction of access to birth control and reproductive care as far away as a state like Alaska. I haven't allowed much time for the response here, but it is a concern to me that the reduction to access in care is going to result in more and not fewer unplanned pregnancies. So,
Senator Murkowski.
I asked the question of Dr. Taylor, and I said
Dr.
that she's no
Taylor
longer
has
there.
left momentarily. She'll be right back. We can ask her for a response in writing or have Dr. Brandy.
Maybe Dr. Brandy can address that. Thank you. I didn't realize that she had vacated the chair there.
Sure. Thank you for the question, and happy to answer. You're absolutely right that there will be downstream effects, and we will not know truly all of the effects that will impact things like maternal morbidity, mortality, unplanned pregnancy rates. We won't know that for years to come. But I think it's important to name that we have a health crisis on top of already a health crisis through COVID. That many labor and delivery wards across the country, for example, have closed because they were unable to keep their doors open. And so thinking about an influx of people that may be seeking maternity care, do we have the support systems? Abortion and maternity care are not mutually exclusive. I'm an OBGYN. I take care of both patients. Often patients are the same patient. And so it's important to recognize that things like maternity care, labor and delivery, and having access to nearby clinics in the communities that are needed are both issues that need addressing.
And we've gone
will
way
have
over
long-term
time
impacts.
on Senator Murkowski, so I'm going to move on to the
Thank you, Madam
next
Chair.
senator. Thank you.